Hello, good morning, Kia ora, New Zealand. Thank you for joining us, Microsoft Bull. This is our New Zealand Developer Community Connect. So my name is Sudhir. I work as a developer product marketing manager in Microsoft New Zealand. And my role and responsibility is to engage and work with the developer, be it in an enterprise, be it in a community, be it in a conferences. So I work with the developers on the ground and make sure they are unblock their journey onto the cloud, specifically on the Azure side. What we're going to talk about in the today's presentation is we're going to talk about the community, and we have good community speakers or the leaders, I would say, who are going to basically share their experience. And then we're going to connect with some of the folks from the communities who are going to talk about their experience and benefits of the communities. And right after that, we'll talk about D&I and the career aspects, why it's important. And we're going to hear from some of the expertise of what they think about it. After that, we're going to have Ask Me Anything panel discussion where some of the community leaders is going to join me, and you can actually tag them to ask any questions in the chat window, and they'll be happy to take that up based on the times. And obviously, they're going to share their what they like in the build. After that, we're going to talk about three sessions in the community spotlight 1, 2, and 3, where the community leaders are gonna come on board and walk you through some of the technologies, how technologies can actually drive innovations that what of a benefits that they see in on the ground with any of the organization, and probably share some of the use case. And we're also going to have a guest speaker, so let's go ahead and move on to the next. So community, I mean, it's I believe all of you understand why and what is community is all about. It's basically, for the people who are passionate about it, by the people who are actually passionate about communities, right? And there is no leadership team, there is no managers who's looking what you're working on and what you're doing, what are the tasks that have been assigned. What we have seen across the globe is in the community, the passionate people come together, they work as a team without any metrics, right? And they basically try to do innovative things. They try to help each other, maybe in upskilling, and as well as they basically build a network and see what's happening in the industry, maybe in their organization, and so on and so forth. Now, before I go ahead and get started, our first section, I just want to give you a couple of highlights that I like about it in Build 2020, and there are a lot of Azure innovation that we talk about it, but some of which I like. I'm just going to quickly walk you through, and then you can look onto the Build website for more information about any of the technologies that you're working on and what are the enhancements, the features that are coming up. So first is on the innovation phase. Now we have Azure Arc, which is enabled for the Kubernetes. So if you love and deploy your solution on the Kubernetes cluster, you can actually monitor through the Azure Arc. And also we bought the Azure Synapse Link, which is my favorite, which basically is a cloud native implementation of hybrid transactional analytic processing that basically brings your operational database services and the Azure Synapse Analytic together in a real time with a single click, right? And as well as there are new capabilities in the Azure machine learning, to better understand the interpretability of the models and product using the differential privacy, and as well as control and audit the data as well as the models, right? Before we get into, I would like to thank our Microsoft technology experts who are taking out time today with us. Jordan, Templeton, Raza, Summer, Leela, thank you so much. And I hope community, you already know these guys. They run community day in, day out. They are the leaders. They talk about technologies day in, day out. And so on and so forth. We have Hamish, Anupama, Sudeep, and Hitesh, who basically, contributing passionately on the technology side to the communities and helping a lot of people in their upskilling and their career as well. So let's get into the first section of NZ Dev Community Connect. In the Community Connect, I'm going to invite Sudeep and Hitesh. So let me just go back and bring Sudeep on board. Hi, Sudeep. Thank you for joining us. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the community members?
Sure. Thanks, Sudhir. Firstly, I would like to thank you for having me here. I'm Sudeep Ghatak, joining in from Christchurch, been here since 2012. I run the Christchurch Azure Meetup group, which is part of the wider Azure tech communities. It's been running since past 2.5 years. We have had good representation from speakers within the community from Microsoft, several MVPs from time to time. The meetup has now close to around 450 members. So if those who are listening in, live in or around Christchurch, do look us up, join in. We have switched to the webinar format now. So in theory, anyone can come and join our sessions. Over to you, Sudhir.
Great. That's great, Sudeep. Thanks for your passion here. So how do you think the community can help individuals and as well as, we would like what you actually like in the build, any enhancements, particular enhancement in the product that you like?
Sure, Sudhir. So that question I've been asked that often. One might wonder what motivates a developer to turn up for a technical session after spending 8 hours in front of a computer at work. But in reality, you'll see, like you also mentioned, that people do make themselves available by taking time off their personal life because of the opportunities it provides. Learning other ways to solve problems that they themselves might be struggling with. On top of that, you get to build a network who could then go and help you in your professional life at a later stage. Again, this meetup is an opportunity for you to go and meet some of these experts who are experts in their fields and who can give you an insight into what's in the pipeline, if I say so. So you have MVPs, you have people who are champion in their fields who can answer all your technical queries. Other than that, I would also say that dev communities, at least in Christchurch, they have engaged together on other initiatives outside work, like rebuilding Christchurch after the earthquakes, helping out the local community after that unfortunate incident we had last year. I'm sure user groups in other countries would also have a story of their own. Coming to your next part of the question about the build event this year, the first good thing I think is that it's a completely free event and it's an online event. Anyone can come and be part of it. I personally watched the keynote. I really liked it. Like the concept around the project reunion and just looking at the space around Microsoft's Fluid framework. That's looking really cool. That's over to you, Sudhir.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sudeep. And next, I'm going to bring another perspective from Hitesh. Hitesh is, running micro community within his organization. So welcome, Hitesh, and thank you for taking out your time. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience who are listening to you?
Yeah, thanks, Sudhir. Thanks for having me here. Good morning and kia ora, everyone. I'm Hitesh Arora, working as DevOps engineer in service assurance for Spark New Zealand. And mainly we have multiple products in our assurance area. So I have been with Spark since 6 years, and I have gained experience in developing and designing network performance tools for our all enterprise customers or business customers. I'm here to speak how our micro community can help developers within our organization so that our developers can learn more about the products. As everyone, we have around 30 to 35 products in our assurance. So we run multiple products meetups so that our developer or grads can learn more about what's going on, what's coming, what new features are coming. And so your next question was how we can micro community can help our developers. So today I'm here to speak here and I will share my experience with you all. So we have very briefly, like from my point of view, we have 6 key points which we make sure that we should take care. So I will start, Sudhir, if it's all good with you.
Yep.
So I will start with my first point is keep our developer community in loop. So we always, in order to execute any plan effectively, I personally believe communication is a key. And that's exactly what I want to emphasize here. So we keep the developer update on all the latest community events we are organizing. We organize hackathons within our organization so that we can encourage them, they can participate more. We make it our absolute priority to organize events within our business hours or time that suits all, such as grads or new interns or working parents, etc. My next point is connect developers with product experts. So in our service assurance layer, we have multiple products. So if any developer wants to learn anything new about the product, they can, we connect them with experts so that they can gain more what new features, what the product is doing. And the third point will be provide training to them. So we provide timely training in person or via virtual communication tools to the developers in order to get more familiar with new product features, what's coming in, and we provide them non-prod instance in training sessions so that they can get to play and get familiar with products, and they can enhance those products in prod for our customers so that the customer should be more happier and we can fulfill their requirements. And the fourth point will be the product roadmap, which is very important for us and which is very important for our developers. And we do a QA session in this product roadmap. So we provide them 6 months of agenda about upcoming key features, what new features are coming, and when they will be released. So we discuss our upcoming goals regarding the product, keep them updated in the loop about current status and the progress, and we do a QA session, a briefly QA session with them so that they, if they want to add any new features or if they have any new innovative idea, so that we can enhance our product and we can do or we can provide more enhanced product to our customers. And the fifth point will be community feedback, which is very important for us. The feedback from developer community is just important as feedback from our customers. Great feedback helps our product iterate fast and more efficiently. So we prefer that if we are having community meetups, we always ask our developer to give us feedback so that we can improve on those things in future. And the last point is like we always celebrate our success with our unique events. So if we success, we always prefer our community or developers to come on board and celebrate with us in unique events. Thanks, Sudhir. Over to you.
Thanks. This is wonderful. I mean, get a insight of how micro communities can help in a closed door environment and helps developer to learn and talk about innovation. This is really great. Yeah,
we always help them to go on conference for other, we have multiple products, so we encourage them to participate and go. We send them to the conferences as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks, Hitesh. Thanks, Sudeep, for your valuable insights on the communities, whether it's external or micro community within the organization. With that, next section on the D&I and the careers, I would like to invite my colleague Summer first, and I'm gonna put Summer on spot, so just give me real quick minute. Hey, Summer, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the people who are listening to you?
Sure, thanks, Sudhir. Tena koutou katoa. My name is Summer El Reyes. I've been part of Microsoft Funnel for the last 2 years, almost 2 years now, as a cloud and digital transformation specialist here in New Zealand with focus on government. Just give me a second here. I'm a member of Women at Microsoft Group as part of my role in the company, and I'm also an executive in Inzitech Women Group, which focuses on basically it's a New Zealand tech industry and women. I have a passion for helping women and young women to be successful and to better understand what roles they can play to empower others as well and to be empowered. Other stuff that I'm passionate about, and I help with initiatives that offer fair opportunities for people to thrive, such as helping, for example, refugees to settle in New Zealand and empower them. I've been in New Zealand for 5 years now, originally from Jordan, where I started my IT career. Back to you, Sudhir.
Thanks. What a rich experience you have, Summer. So, Summer, how important do you think is that diversity and what value does it bring? Also, since you work in a Microsoft, can you share the Microsoft stand on the D&I?
Yes, absolutely. Happy to. I think from what you hear from my accent, I bring some diversity with me as well. So as I said, I'm from Jordan. English is my second language. I've been only in New Zealand for 5 years, so I bring with me my culture and my heritage. I bring with me another perspective of how I see the world. And as part of my career as well, maybe I should have spoke about this as well. I started by being a technical person with, I have a computer engineering degree, a bachelor degree from Jordan. And then I moved along with my career where I covered a wide region. So I've been a manager for a pre-sales team for Eastern Central Europe, Middle East and Africa. So you can imagine the number of countries and cultures that this covers and the travel, which gives you that perspective where you sit down and you go, oh, actually, there's a different perspective. The thing with how we think about diversity is it's not only that we need to understand those differences. What we're trying to do is to basically not only encourage people to bring their authentic self to work, and not only just understand it and go, yeah, there's differences, but basically how to embrace it, how to utilize and focus on the strength that comes with that diversity and those different points of views. And to be specific, in Microsoft, we have a program that focuses on all diversity and inclusion, which covers different pillars as well. So, for example, and I'm just going to mention examples because we have really a long list. Sure. Gleam Group, Mari and Pacifica, Women at Microsoft, Accessibility, and others. And we include also diversity and inclusion in what we call Connect sessions, which is basically, it's part of our KPIs, like every single person need to be focused on those pillars. But we also, it's not because it's a KPI, we work on it as a group where we help each other to do it. And the way that we do it is basically in Microsoft, we have 3 things that we focus on. So we focus on the awareness, which starts with understand that there's differences and there's diversity, mitigate the effects and unconscious bias that people have. But it doesn't stop there, right? So we move to the next one, which is very important, is to build curiosity. So we started with awareness, then we build curiosity. which is a desire to understand those point of views, how those experiences come to the world, what can they bring to me, what value that perspective brings, with all humility and empathy that this is something that's going to bring value. So how do I know more about it, right? How do I embed it in my work, everyday work? And the last thing is that we help people to have the courage, right? So we understood it, we have curiosity, but have the courage to break through those barriers, to bring your authentic self. Like, we are all different and let's embrace it. So how do we do this? And we challenge those things that you can find senior leadership talking about their stories, trying to bringing the most of their basically humility and empathy into how they became they are. And there's no shame. It's all about everyone to be present and bring their all selves in there. And the other thing that's important to mention here is how we apply it. So we don't just put those things like awareness, curiosity, courage, and we sit and we wait for them to happen. We actually have a lot of initiatives and programs on how to build those things. So, for example, we develop those capabilities and how we practice awareness. We have initiatives of how we exercise that curiosity and demonstrate it. That's, for example, when I said senior leadership team bring themselves totally to work. We try to make it as real as possible. So we have those workshops where we discuss differences. We ask about those different perspectives, and we listen with curiosity and understanding that this might be bringing something that we did not think about before. And then we try to understand what's the impact that comes out of it. And we try to measure it as much as possible so we can show the value that comes out of those differences. Does that answer your question, Sudhir?
Yeah, and I think it's great insights that you shared with us, Samar. Really appreciate that. Before we let you go, the same questions to you, because build is going on and we are very excited about it. Any specific technology features or anything which you liked about Bell?
Yeah, so basically the things that I can drill down into as well are women at Microsoft, because as I said, I'm a member of that group, right? So in women in Microsoft, we try to focus on things that not only how to develop the career and how to focus on personal development and, for example, conversation skills and sponsorship and mentoring, but we also try to focus on culture. So how do we get the onboarding? How do we get, there's a lot of researchers that says, for example, that women decide not to go for the role unless they have 100% of what's mentioned there. So how do we break that? How do we build the courage into you're good enough, for example? There is no need to have imposter syndrome. Let's talk about it. How do we develop that? Because we have a growth mindset, so it's more about learning, right?
True.
And we also focus on, for example, how we connect and inspire. So how do we empower the community? So it's not only internal at Microsoft, but we go, how do we bring that out and get the benefit out of the community as well? How do we build a pipeline of not only women, but everyone that's skilled, and specifically women that can bring their value and strength into the organization, and how we inspire others to do the same, and other organizations as well to bring it and bring that empowerment. The other thing that we try to focus on as well is like the fourth pillar, and that is the customer obsession, is that we bring all of this, we build that. So how do we build also services and products that address diverse people in the community, right? So it's not only about us and building the people in our organization, but it's also to bring it back into, we're a tech company, right? So how do we build those products and services, and we offer the right support that's actually can address more diverse group in the community. So those are things that we've been focusing on as well in Women in Microsoft. If I go back to your question on how, for example, we can help others and get people, or if I have an advice on how we can be better in addressing those things, I would go and talk a little bit about my journey. Basically, as I said, I started deep technical And then a few years after that, myself and my manager, we've noticed that I have more social skills. I'm a speaker, as you can see. So I've decided that I want to do more customer facing, and I wanted to not only be doing coding and deep support and technical consulting. So I've approached the management and I've asked what are the opportunities that are available. And and basically, and I asked them before there was a role into what should I be focusing on or developing on my skills in order to move to the role that I think that I would like to be considered for. And we've worked on that. Great. And I moved to the pre-sales team. And later, I've managed that pre-sales team. And then I thought this is something that I'm enjoying, and I would like to do more of that, to focus on strategy and impact and how I empower customers and have an actual impact on the strategy. So I've decided that this is something I like, so I moved to sales. So from being a computer engineer and developer, and I've moved to be a salesperson and in management, right? And then when we decided to move to New Zealand, it was basically it was a big. So we're talking about diversity. It was a big change. Whether I've managed to do it as quick as possible or not, it was a big change. It's a different culture, different language, right? Different expectations. And I had a 6-month-old baby as well. And I thought, what's the best way to be part of the community? So I've enrolled to do my MBA in management. So I got my MBA from Massey Universities a couple of years back. And now I am basically in this part where it's leaning more to sales, but I would like to say that it's more into how we help customers and to put their own strategy and to actually move forward on what they're thinking and what they would like to achieve. And so what I'm saying is that if you like something, or if you think that you would like to do something else, just work for it, right? It doesn't matter. Life will have obstacles. It will always be challenging, and you're not alone. You don't need to do it by yourself, right? So put your goal, work for it, right? And get a mentor, get a coach, get someone that can help you. And that's why we have those kind of groups and those kinds of chats, because we're here and we're happy to help. So get a mentor, find someone that you value their method, their attitude, how they approach, for example, jobs, and go for it. The other thing that was really key and is still key in what we're doing is networking. Go out there. And I know that sometimes it's awkward and difficult, but guess what? It's awkward and difficult for everyone else in that situation as well. So when we go to a networking event, it's awkward for most of the people in there. So get yourself out there. Now probably it's easier because it's virtual. Get yourself on those networking events and chats and catch-ups, because those ones will basically show you what are the possibilities, and it will help you understand how you can be part of them or what needs to be developed. And lastly, just be humble and curious. It's always going to happen. It doesn't mean, don't be afraid of failure. It doesn't mean that the first role that you apply for or you're approaching is the one that you're getting, but you would learn from that one and you would know which is the next step that needs to be done.
Yep, totally agree. Thank you so much, Summer, and totally agree with you. Failure is not a failure, is actually a learning. With that, I would like to bring our another speaker from Wellington, Anupama. Thank you, Anupama, for your time. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the attendees?
Sure, Sudhir. Hi, everyone. I'm Anupama Natarajan from Wellington, New Zealand. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and a Microsoft MVP. And I was born back in India, moved to New Zealand around 2001, and I think it's almost 19 years now. So I've been working in the IT industry for 20 plus years. And I currently run the Wellington Data Management and Analytics Meetup and Wellington Artificial Intelligence Meetup. And it is good to see great community mentors here, like some of the people who are speaking today are my mentors too. So I'm happy to inform about that. And also they are the key motivating factors for me to run meetups and also like events in Wellington in order to bring the community together in Wellington, New Zealand. Over to you, Sudhir.
Cool, fantastic, Anupama. And I also came from India, I mean, by the way. So my question to you is, Anupama, is how do you see the D&I culture is a, a win-win situation for an individual and as well as, more importantly for an organization?
Great question, Sudhir, because I think culturally, like I came from a different cultural background to New Zealand, and also like being a woman working in the tech industry. And that I think explains a lot, especially back 20 years back and coming to a new country and you're trying to get to know things and how things work here. I think Summer has put that really well in her talk. And in my situation, I think D&I is really helpful both personally for myself as well as for any organization. And let me explain this through a simple story like which happened in my career. So I've been working as an architect for a project. This is like a few years back. And this is with for a digital transformation project. So if you think about our project team, it comprises of people from different culture, different genders, and also like different age groups. And sometimes like we think about like age groups and stuff, but everyone brings their own value to the project. And one of the key thing we had in our project is like it's all about delivering value for our customers. So we don't worry about anything else, like all these differences that we have got, whether it's cultural differences, background differences, or opinions. We have to have it friendly conversations with us, and it's all about delivering customer value. And what happened was like there was a project team member, and he was more interested and so enthusiastic, really young and energetic person. And he wanted to know about the architecture of this project, like why are we doing the architecture in this fashion and stuff. So he had a lot of curious questions. So I was just having a casual conversation with him and then walked him through the architecture. What are we trying to do here? Why we went down a particular path? And he asked some interesting questions, like which made me to think, oh, okay. So then I allowed him to speak in the meeting and also like gave him the opportunity to bring his viewpoint to the team. So that was really interesting to hear, because sometimes we think like, oh, okay, they are some young people maybe new to their career. So, but they definitely bring different perspective to the projects. And after having a whole heap of discussion with the person, and we really came to know like, oh, okay, there is a different way of approaching this problem. So that conversation was really helpful as a project team for us, and we were able to come up with a better solution than what we originally had, and we present it to our customers. And personally, if you think about this particular incident, like it is a great value for the organization, because at the end of the day, we were able to deliver a better architecture, and we never had any egos in terms of like who is actually contributing here. And the second point I want to highlight is, as an individual, I learned a good lesson, which is like even people are new to their career, or like they have got a little bit of experience, always value their opinions, because I think they can bring fresh ideas to the table. And sometimes like I have to go, I was able to go back and think about how the next generation was thinking about a problem. And so that gave me a wealth of information personally. And also like one of the key lesson I learned from that story is like never reinvent the wheel. So you have a lot of things already there, and that is the important lesson I learned from that conversation, really. So look for things that is already there. Look for don't reinvent the wheel, and look for opportunities where you can deliver value for the customers using products that are already there, rather than just doing custom build. And it may be a simple story, but I thought like it correlates a different aspects of D&I, which is like respect each other, respect everyone's values and opinions, what they bring to the table, irrespective of their cultural background, gender, doesn't matter, whatever things it is, like treat everyone equally and value their opinions. Over to you, Sudhi.
True. What a great insight, Anupama. And I totally agree. When I go to the communities in New Zealand, I used to interact with the freshers as well, right? And they actually bring a new perspective to any problems or technologies or the surrounding that they are. They are very enthusiastic of learning. So that's great. Thank you so much for. Yeah.
Just adding one more point is like sometimes I get young when I talk to young people too. So sometimes you need to have those conversations which brings fresh perspectives.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. I totally agree. So thank you so much. And to all the audience, if you have any questions, now you can, put up in a Q&A, just tag Anupama or Summer, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help you with that.
Sure.
Now, cool, thanks. Now let's move on to the next section where we're going to talk about Ask Me Anything. So in the panel, we have Jordan, Templeton, Reza, and Hamish. And let's go ahead and get started with Reza. So let me just go back, and I'm just gonna bring Reza online. So hey Reza, how are you doing?
Hey Sudhir, thank you. Hey everyone, good morning. So happy to be with you here with Build Digital event this year.
Cool. Why don't you introduce yourself? I mean, I know people know you guys very well because they see you day in, day out, or maybe on the social sides, but still, if you just introduce yourself to them.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Reza Rad. I'm based in Auckland. Like many others in this call, I'm not originally from New Zealand, but now living in this beautiful country for 8 years. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director and Microsoft MVP. I work at Red Hat, which is a consulting and training company focused on Power BI and AI. My area of my expertise is mainly on Power BI side, and I, with the help of some others, run the Power BI user group here in Auckland, which we have like monthly free meetings on Power BI. And if you are around, feel free to pop on to our meeting. These days it's virtual meetings, but normally we have like physical meetings every month in the Microsoft office in Auckland. These days, virtual, by the way.
Cool. Thanks, Reza. And by the way, I like the background. A lot of MVP's trophies and books are there. Cool. So since you bring a lot of industry experience on the board, Reza, I would like to ask you, what do you think about the Industry 4.0 and how it opens an opportunity for New Zealand?
Yep, sure. So I like always to start things from like a little bit of history so that everyone know what the Industry 4.0 is.
Yep.
It's part of what's called Fourth Industrial Revolution. If you look at how industry progressed through the time, you'll see that we have like different stages of revolution. The first stage was like back in 70, 80, in those years that things moved from production of things by hand, from hand production to machines. We had machines and steam power and water power. These helped in mechanizing things, and a lot of things happened with machines. That was like the first industrial revolution. The second one was the time that like railroad came, or telegraph. This is called as technological or technical revolution. This was the time that we had faster transfer of people and of course ideas and thinkings. That was like like when modern production line produced, and we had mass production, which of course with that there came like a surge of unemployment as well. That was like in 80, 60 on those years. Fast forward to like about 100 years after that, like in 1970, we had the age of digital revolution, which we had computers, we have big companies such as Microsoft, IBM, Apple. These are companies who actually started this revolution, and we've seen the usage of that a lot in these industrial progress. Now, Industry 4.0 is the fourth revolution here, which talks about connectivity, interconnectivity of a lot of these components together. And these days we are talking about not individual machines. We are not talking about like individual people working on individual things. We are talking about everything to be connected. With the fourth industrial revolution, there are a lot of things coming, such as Internet of Things, IoT, cloud computing, AI, of course, cognitive computing, cybersecurity, and things like that. These all look like buzzword when I talk about it right now, and that is exactly because these are the top edge technologies right now that are leading this way of how industry works. Now, the way that this is important for us is to think about what this new era of technology would look like when we are working in this environment, because this is happening just these days, right? We see governments are moving through things such as smart cities or smart factories for a lot of like production factories and things like that. We see agriculture is moving through making things smarter. We'll see a lot of like job market will change a lot with happening of a lot of like cloud-based jobs. This needs a lot of solutions to be like self-maintenance solutions, autonomous maintenance, like a lot of robots to help human to make some, to build some of the work, and also to bring that data, like consider Internet of Things. Now we don't have data only coming from one source of information, data coming from everywhere, and that huge amount of data is not possible for a human to make a decision on it, to analyze it. We need like an AI function on it. We need some machine learning, automatic machine learning on these to help making this decision. The decision-making process would be, a lot of that would be done by the machines, by the processes that are built to make things automatic. That is how this new era is coming, and you can see like signs of these happening around you as well. You see that like when you go to a parking lot, when you go to doing any transaction somewhere, you'll see that there are a lot of like interconnectivity happening in a lot of applications, mobile devices, augmented reality, 3D printing. All of these are helping to build this Industry 4.0, and that is how it is going to affect the, let's say, the whole job market, the whole market of industrial changes.
Great, wonderful, and I totally agree with you. I mean, we can actually see, the people who born in 70s or 80s, they can see what used to happen earlier in the industry, and how the things are changing over the period of time now, and then what's going to be in the future. So it's really fantastic. I mean, I totally amazed with the innovation that we bring into the industry. Before we let you go, Reza, since we are in the build, any announcement from build which you like, and why? I mean, the most relevant question would be the why you like that.
So I liked. So I'm a Power BI. I'm a data analytics guy person. Yep. So I liked things on that area. I liked an announcement on Power BI side, which helped a lot in like going more towards enterprise BI features, like in addition to self-service BI features that we have now, we have things that are helping a lot, things such as like ability to have like direct query to data flow, which helps a lot of businesses, even if they are small businesses, to start building their own data warehouse, not duplicating the data, like bringing that data in. And of course, for the developer community, this means that this rich back-end reporting technology now can be used as part of their application that they use within the application as well. And of course, some of the AI features, like abilities that we have these days on AI Builder, which is increasing a lot. And Leila have a short talk about some of these a little bit later today. So these are really interesting things that always grab my attention.
Right, great, and I'm sure we're gonna see in your presentation how the Power BI is gonna provide us a platform which can make it easy for the data analytics. Wonderful, yes. Cool. Thank you so much, Reza, for your time. And now I would like to invite my next.
You have a
Yes.
question from the chat window. Would you like to take one now?
Sure.
How can we get in touch with Microsoft Azure technical experts in New Zealand? The Microsoft website doesn't really provide much info apart from vague forms, unclear where to go. Can you please help?
I think Raza posted an answer. If you want to find a local MVPs, there is a website. You can actually go ahead and filter out by the country. However, if you need any help from the product standpoint or maybe any connect, you can reach out to me. I have posted my Twitter handle into the website. Just ping me and I'll be more than happy to help you. So I hope that answers your question. So let's go back to the next speaker. And thanks, Annie, for jumping in. So my next speaker is Jordan. And again, it doesn't need an introduction. But Jordan, thank you so much. Welcome to the Bill.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sounds good. Okay, hey everyone. So my name is Jordan Templeton. I am the CTO for Aware Group. We're a Hamilton headquartered data and AI company. Yes, I did say Hamilton, and yes, there is a lot of cool technology happening here as well. So I'm happy to represent Hamilton here today.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan. And by your words, it looks like its next hub is going to be the Hamilton because there are a lot of things happening over there.
It's already happening.
Cool. So I'm seeing there are a lot of questions regarding the Azure data center. So my question is very specific for you. We recently announced the Azure data center for New Zealand. I want to get your perspective. How do you, as an community leaders or working in the industry on the ground, how do you see is beneficial for the region, specifically for New Zealand? Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to cover a few different points to answer that question.
Yep.
So I'm sure a lot of you saw about 2 weeks ago, we had that announcement from Microsoft New Zealand saying that Microsoft is investing in a data center region here in New Zealand. And it was actually the wording in that headline that a lot of people got tripped up on, especially the media. And so they specifically said data center region, not just data center. And what that means in Azure terms is, a data center is a physical facility that has a bunch of servers deployed. That's kind of where you deploy your Azure workloads. That's where Office 365, all of the Microsoft 365 platform runs, Dynamics and all of that. But Microsoft specifically said for New Zealand, we're getting a region. So what that means is we're actually going to have 3 facilities in New Zealand, 3 physical buildings, 3 physical data centers. And together that will represent, the capacity available within New Zealand. Now, it's still early stages. We haven't had too much information around, location or, they're still going through some of the government approvals. But, when that does all come through, we're going to have a decent amount of capacity that can easily service the country. In terms of what I see, the effects, not just in New Zealand, but kind of in the surrounding regions. Right now, Australia East or the Australian data centers are the closest to us here in New Zealand right now. And we're really lucky to have, fiber deployed throughout the country. Most people have access to fiber now. We have decent mobile connectivity now. And, you've just seen that Vodafone at the end of last year released their 5G network, which is now expanding. So we've got really good connectivity options in the country. That means we're going to have lower latency. We're going to have, higher capacity. And it's great that right now, you can get to Australia and back in 40 milliseconds, but, we're going to be able to get to those really low millisecond times once we have that compute here in country. There's also a lot of benefit to the privacy and compliance aspects as well. If you look at the direction the government's going in, there's been some guidance, I think it came out either last year, I think it was about mid last year, where the government put forward a cloud first kind of approach. So, that's showing that there is a commitment there to look at cloud technologies as a safe way to put our workloads in there. And given that most of the public cloud, well, there wasn't really any public cloud available in New Zealand at the time, the government had put forward a lot of good practices around using regions like Australia. And that was fine for a lot of information. Now, when the announcement came out last week or 2 weeks ago for the New Zealand regions, I had a ton of requests from customers asking, you know, how soon can I move my workloads? Unfortunately, I don't have the timelines on that. But it's not super critical, because if you look at building apps for the cloud, you know, if we design them and architect them for the cloud, it should be pretty simple to bring them back to New Zealand, you know, when the time is right, if it even needs to happen, you know. So I think we're going to get a lot of great Azure capacity in country. But the other thing that people don't realize as well is that that also includes things like Office 365. So when we're looking at compliance for our documents and, you know, those types of data, they can stay within country. Power BI, bringing that back into the country and keeping all that data, you know, within our borders is great. And, you know, all the other platform that comes with that.
Cool. That means, I mean, you might be hearing a lot of compliance and data privacy concerns from the customer, especially from the government side. Now, I think they'll be open for hosting their solutions or data in New Zealand region once it's available. Great, that's really great insights, Jordan. Before I let you go, the same questions. Any specific announcement that you like in the build, or if so, then what is it and why do you like it?
Yeah, there's been so many pieces of news that have dropped as part of build. It's always an exciting time of the year. For me, my particular interest is in AI, governance, and IoT. And the biggest kind of combination of all those things was the announcement of Project Bonsai. So being able to train, you know, autonomous systems using machine learning, and then deploy that onto a physical device and have that go and operate and, you know, make processes more efficient. You know, that sounds awesome. Plus, who doesn't want to get, you know, a robot arm that they can program and play with? I think that's awesome.
Cool, great. Thank you so much, Jordan, for your time and the insights. Now let me just move on to our next speaker, Hamish. Thank you so much, Hamish, and welcome to the Build New Zealand Local Dev Community Connect. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Hamish, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Apologies. Thank you,
No worries.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Hamish Watson from Christchurch, New Zealand. I am a data platform MVP. I also run a couple of user groups. A couple of them were virtual before COVID-19, but my main one here in Christchurch, SQL Server and data management, is now gone virtual. I've been leader of that user group for 5 odd years now, and it's really good because it's grown to 908 members as of this morning. I checked. And yeah, I run a consultancy firm here in Christchurch that specializes in data, Azure, and DevOps. And that sort of flows into what I do for the community as well. I really love helping people make stuff go with technology. Yeah, up to you, Steve.
Cool. Thank you so much, Hamish, for introduction. And you talk about you're working a lot on data analytics and AI. So what is next that is you think, you know, is going to be the next big thing which is going to come up in future? I mean, we have seen, you know, initially we used to have the transactional data, then over the period of time, we got a lot of requests on the analytics side of it, and that's where there are a lot of products that come up. And after that, when somebody get into the advanced analytics, that's where the AI also come into the picture, right? And there are a lot of innovations still going, and market is adopting those changes. Based on your experience and based on your vision, what you see is going to be the next big thing which is going to come in future?
Awesome, thanks for the question. I tell you what, I've always been interested in computing since I was a little boy. In fact, I was in hospital at the age of 8, and I was given a computer magazine to read, and I always wanted to be a systems analyst, and I got a degree in chemical engineering. But it's funny how time goes on, and now I work as pretty much a systems analyst. However, when I was young, I read about quantum computing, and I never thought that it would actually eventuate. I thought it was just something that was impossible. And it's so awesome to now see that, you know, quantum computing is now become a thing. You know, it brought me a lot of wonderment as a child reading about it and through my life, but now the fact that we're actually using it and we can use it, you know, there's Azure Quantum, and the best part of it is that, you know, it's open, it's an open ecosystem, and that brings, you know, two things that I love: technology and community. And so I'm really excited to see where that goes. I love the fact that, you know, Q# is a language which is open source. It's on GitHub. It's open in the sense that it's agnostic to the hardware. I think that's brilliant, because again, that allows the community to drive where the language goes. They're not bound by this, that, and the other. But for me, I always envisaged that I would never be able to do anything with quantum computing, yet, you know, the fact that we can spin it up in Azure, you know, using the platform that we're all very familiar with, and also the tools, right? I can use the Azure portal, CLI, whatever. And for my developer friends, you know, there's SDKs, what have you. And I guess it's timely now, the fact, you know, quantum computing can do so much that, you know, what used to take years, we can now do in minutes or hours. And, you know, pharmaceutical research, right at this moment, I think that there's a great use for quantum computing. So I've got that wonderment of that 8-year-old boy again. I'm really excited to see where, you know, industry goes, as well as, you know, that community driving it. It's awesome.
Cool. Cool. Thank you so much, Hamish, for your insights. So yeah, I'm hearing quantum is going to be the big thing, and I'm really looking forward to have some quantum community in New Zealand. So let's see. Now, Hamish, the same questions to you. Any particular announcements from Bill that you liked, and why?
I guess it's linked to my previous answer, kind of. I was really excited to hear about Microsoft Cloud for healthcare. I think at the moment we're all thinking a lot more about health and things than we ever have, and the fact that, you know, Microsoft is leading this, you know, with industry cloud offering to, you know, help hospitals and healthcare providers better, you know, manage patient as well as the staff there. And that's a really exciting thing. And for me, as a technologist, the fact that it's bringing so many different aspects of technology and bringing it together, you know, we're using Azure, but bringing, you know, 365 dynamic power platform, that's an exciting area that I think just makes dealing with technology so easy for people to take it up. And so again, bringing that all together, I think it's a fantastic announcement, and I'm really looking forward to where you know, where it goes for society. Thanks.
Cool. So if anyone from the attendee side have any questions, feel free to put in live Q&A, and our panelists will be happy to answer. While you guys are doing it, top 3 advice, Hamish, from your side for individual, you know, with respect to the community. Any recommendation that you want to give them?
Sorry, what was that, Sadir? The recommendation for?
Yeah, for the individuals. I mean, maybe on the learning side or maybe on the career side.
Sure. Look, you know, a lot of us on this call run user groups. There's a whole range of free learning things that people can look at. You know, I use docs.microsoft.com almost daily to look at things. But I think, you know, finding people and connecting with people is a great way to learn and connect. And so again, look up your local user groups, and you know, there's a range of us that our whole premise is to help educate people and connect people, and a lot of that education can be free. There's a whole heap of resources online that we can use, but of course it's always good to talk to people as well. So look for those local user groups and virtual groups, and it's again a great way to extend your knowledge.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hamish. And I'm going to bring Jordan on the stage. And Jordan, what is your top 3 recommendations for the people who are listening to you? Any advice that you want to give them? Yep.
Is that in terms of like career, that type of thing?
Could be anything. I mean, maybe how do you, let's say, keep yourself updated, and you know how people can go ahead and follow that. Any recommendations from your side?
Sure. So I have quite a deep interest in technology, and I've spent a lot of time, you know, in my own time upskilling and trying things out. One thing I've really found is that attending those user groups has been awesome. Unfortunately, we don't have a community that meets as often in Hamilton anymore. But I have, you know, had the opportunity to go up and present in Auckland and Wellington. But alongside that, I've found the best way to learn for me is to come up with side projects. So IoT is a particular interest of mine. I've spent a decent amount of money on like little circuit boards and, you know, spent time connecting those things to Azure. Outside of kind of those side projects, I guess the main recommendation for me in terms of where I see the industry going and where I think it would help developers, particularly when it comes to their career development, is making sure that you keep an eye on what's happening in the AI space. So you'll see that Microsoft over the last couple of years have been releasing a bunch of different services, the cognitive services. You know, many years ago, even Azure ML Studio came out. You know, those were designed as, you know, quick, you know, developers can use these tools without having to train to be a data scientist. What we're also seeing now, though, is that companies are hiring data scientists into the teams, training their own models. But the gap that I'm seeing in particular, especially in New Zealand, is that people aren't, the connection between a trained model and integrating it into an application isn't really there. So if you're looking to be in demand in the industry right now, or at least for my team, we're looking for people who can have a little bit of background in machine learning, you don't have to train the model, but understand how it works, and then integrate that into an application. So I think that for me would be, you know, the #1 piece of advice around progressing a career in New Zealand.
Cool. Thank you so much. I mean, I can take it as you should have a passion for learning, irrespective of how much experience you have, right? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
This is
always learning.
This is pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna take Reza next, and Reza, same. If you have one recommendations for the people on call.
I'd say always learning. So it's kind of the same thing that Jordan talked about as well. But I say technology is something that changes like every day. What you learned probably like last year is now either obsolete or it can be done in much better way today. So if you are working in the area of technology, you should always every day learn a new way of doing things, which looks a little bit like frustrating, learning like every single day. But the thing is that you are learning things that can be done these days much easier than it used to be. And that way you will be always on top of technology. You can do things faster than you normally did with, let's say, old methods. That's the concept that I always follow myself.
Right. Thank you so much. And I think we all have the same view, always learning. One thing, I mean, which I learned here when I land in New Zealand and met back is, apart from keep learning, eat healthy, stay fit, and keep learning. So that's what my learning being in New Zealand. So yeah, thank you so much, Raza. Let's move on to the next section and see what we have. All right, so now I'm gonna invite Leela, who's gonna talk about how to find abnormalities in the live data to avoid any disaster. Before I'm gonna run through the slides for Leela, I want Leela to just go ahead and introduce yourself, Leela. I'm just gonna put you on live. There you go. Hey, Leela.
Hello. Kia ora, everyone, and happy to be in the part of the Microsoft Build New Zealand. Okay, so I'm Leila. I'm based in Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm AI and data platform MVP, working in Radhakat and with Rezaret, Indira, and a couple of others. We run Power BI user group and AI user group in Auckland.
Well, thank you so much, Leila, for your introduction, and I think you're going to walk us through with the presentation on how we can find abnormalities in the live data, which sounds pretty interesting to me. So let's go ahead and start it.
Oh, cool. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how we can use actually find abnormalities in the live data using anomaly detection. So that's a kind of the really new things that we have in Microsoft tools, and it can be really useful. So I'm going to have a look at that. Please, next slide. Before I start, I want to kind of show one of the really interesting entertainment that all of us has, that is about the car racing. So we are going to look at the, so you know that's a car racing can happen a lot. They have lots of dangers can happen through that, and there are lots of accidents may happen because of that. So how we can actually make kind of changes to that, how we can avoid that car accident can happen. Can we go to the next slide?
You want me to play this?
Oh yeah, please play. Yep. Oh, thank you. So yeah, as you can see here, that's a common picture that we can see in most of the car racing, and that's a thing. So some things going wrong, some small things going wrong, and we want to know that what is the cause of that problem that make the car accident happen. Thanks so much. Can you go to the next slide? So it can be a spark plug. It can be that's not working very well, or it can be any other component. Maybe go to the next slide, please. It can be any small component that doesn't work. Maybe it's getting old, or we don't track it for a maintenance it for a long time, and that can cause a big problem. Can we go to the next slide? So yeah, that's a small problems make a big difference actually. So it's not just about the car racing. In any situation, even a small factor, if you didn't monitor it well, if you didn't check the abnormalities happening, that small problem or small component can cause a big problem. And even solve that small problem can help us to make a big difference. So please, next slide. So that's why we need the anomaly detection. So there are some, the system works in very well, and suddenly we see that some small changes can happen. So that's why we need the anomaly detection technology. For example, for the car racing, even a small component doesn't work at the specific of the time we have a car accident. Or in a, for example, bank account, if there is some problem, cash out, some suddenly cash out happen, we can detect it and avoid it for the future. Or it can be in a greenhouse, actually, that the temperature suddenly change, and that a small change can cause lots of damage to the financial things that we have. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now we are going to the help of the AI to detect the problem before a system crash or before a customer gets angry. So that actually we are going to use the combination of the AI with anomaly detection, sometimes image processing, and the other to detect the problems before it happen. So for example, in the next slide, I'm going to show you about for example, for the car accident, they use a couple of different technology like saliency to detect the different parts of the car that's not working well. In the next slide, also, we are going to see that how they combine it with a CNN technology that is in some type of the neural network plus anomaly detection to detect these parts that may happen. For example, these small parts can change and get some problem during the time. So we are going to detect that with using the image processing, saliency detection, and also neural network to improve the accuracy of the time series. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is not just about car accidents. This can be used anomaly detection in other industries. It can be in environmental, it can be health, manufacturing, financial, transportation, social media, and smart house and other areas that we have. So for example, in the next slide, I'm going can we go to the next slide? Yep. So for example, in it can be in an animal thing. So we want to track the different animals in the zoo, and we want to see that which one is actually trace them and see that if what happened to them. So what is anomaly detection? Anomaly detection is the process of detecting time series data outlier points on a given input time series where the behavior is not what we expected. The temperature of the greenhouse should be varied between, for example, 26 centigrade to 30, but suddenly in some point it's going to 40. That's an anomaly. That's an outlier that happened in the data. Can we go to the next slide? Or in a car accident, for example, if the oil gauge reading is normal, is it leak or not? So that's also during the time can cause a problem. Or the monitoring the consumption, that power consumption also, that's another one that if it's changed during the time suddenly is going up can cause actually another problem. So to the next slide, please. So there are two types of the anomaly detection, time series detection that we have. One of them is a spike. That means that indicate temporary bursts of anomalies behavior in a system. So this is just for sudden changes. The other one is indicate the beginning of the persistent changes over the time. So it's kind of start from that point, for example, the device or the component doesn't working. So there are actually two different approaches that exist for anomaly detection and is applied in all industries. So so let's see that in Microsoft products, what we have. Can we go to the next slide to see what we have? So in Microsoft, for the anomaly detection and for most of the AI technology, we have two types of technology, pre-built AI and custom AI. So for pre-built AI, we have a API for the cognitive services for anomaly detection that we can embed it in our code. It can be a C# code, it can be a Databricks, or it can be a Power BI. We can embed it and use these cognitive services there without writing any code. We just consume it. In another sense, it's a custom AI. That means that as a data scientist, we have our own libraries in the R or Python language, and we want to embed it in our developer code, and we want to kind of embed it in the .NET or in a SQL or in a data lakes code, and we want to consume it. So there are different approaches that we can do that. I'm going to show you, just talk about the pre-built AI that exists in Microsoft Cognitive Services. So if you go to the next slide, that's an overview of this one that we have in Cognitive Services. This is a sample data that you can see here. So these services actually gives you an endpoint and a key. You see that I make it kind of put a blue box on that. And this is a sample data, doesn't have follow any seasonality or trend. And as you can see here, this service able to detect the point that is not in the range of the other. Of course, I have a sensitivity of the 90% to 25. This can be changed, but is able to detect the point that is actually actually is not in a current kind of the current normal range of the data. In the next slide, I'm going to show you that actually I use my own data. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yep. In the next slide, I use another data set. That's a data set I use for a Raspberry Pi. That was the temperature changing, and I bring it here. So as you see here, there is 2 points of the data that it shows the anomaly and is not in the range of the other data. So this is the API that is works. So it's a JSON, and you can easily consume it in your other applications. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you that, for example, how you can consume these codes, this API in the C# code. So you see that we have a Microsoft.ml library that we able easily to embed it and use the kind of the Spark anomaly detection, that can be a Spark one or the other one, into your code. Or in the next example, that's the next slide, is about using it in the Azure Databricks. So that's a really interesting end-to-end solution. In this solution, we actually be able to use Twitter to fetch the information from Twitter using Event Hub, and we call it through the Azure Databricks. So we call the tweet from the Twitter using the Event Hub, and we bring it there. Then we use the Microsoft Cognitive Services anomaly detection to detect the number of the count of the tweet that is not in the same range. For example, during the day, we have about, for example, 20 different tweets between 20 to 30. Suddenly, it's going to 100. So that's the anomaly. So that service in Microsoft Cognitive Services able to detect that one. So you see that the code actually also put over there to connect to that service, to the cognitive services. So this is another example of the using that. And in the last one, that is in a Power BI, actually, I'm able in the Power BI, in a Power Query, I call that services and apply to my data. Again, is the data about temperature. And as you can see here, I have the first column, I have the data and the time, and I'm able to set using that API that it is anomaly or not, what is the normal range, what is the expected, what is the margin, and the other. So you see that if you are a developer, if you are a Power Platform or any, you can consume these cognitive services pre-built without knowing about the process of the creating anomaly detection. So that is how actually is working. And in the last slide, actually, I provide the list of the resources for anomaly detection if you're interested. So the first one is the website. That's a demo. You can go and browse it. The second one is actually for streaming data. That's Azure Databricks. That's a really interesting one. This is my favorite. And also, if you're using the ML.NET in the .NET framework, how to call it. And finally, in Power BI. So there's a two actually link to the Power BI, both from Microsoft and from my blog post. So you see that how is actually easy to use the anomaly detection in your data in all different platforms.
Cool. This is fantastic, Leela. And I think just to add on top of that, it doesn't matter where your data is and where you want to, take a decisions on normally. Either it's going to be edge or it's going to be on the cloud. It totally depends on what business problem you're trying to solve. But you got, everything covered. So thank you so much, Leela, for a great session over here. And we're going to share this slide deck. At the end, I'm going to put up a link from where you can download the PowerPoint, which will have all these links for you folks. Now, next is Raza, who's going to talk us about how Power BI is going to help to spread the information, especially in this information, how we can look into the information, slice, dice, and see various aspects. So over to you, Reza.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Sadir again. Hi, everyone, back again. I think we can skip this slide. I already explained who I am. So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, and we see all this in your background. So I think the people are aware of it. There you go.
Right. So if you haven't used Power BI, so let me first talk about this. Power BI is a reporting tool that in this short talk, I'm going to talk about how this is used in helping the COVID-19 pandemic situation with spreading the word information in news and agencies and health departments all around the world. Because you might not have heard about Power BI or you might not have used it, let me explain very quickly what Power BI is. Power BI is a set of tools and services that helps you to build reports and analysis. It can be really easy to use. It's based on a self-service user experience, so everyone with a little knowledge of data analysis should be able to start working with it. Can we go to next slide, please? Here, for example, you can see like a very simple Power BI desktop environment, which you can connect to a folder, including a bunch of files, get data from that folder. Power BI usually automatically combine these together. It's not just a tool for visualization. It's a tool that you can use also for data preparation, combining data, removing, let's say, extra columns that you have, and things like that. And as you can see, this is not a tool that I go and write a script. I can do all of these with just right click here, select this option, select that option. Here you can see that I can remove some rows, clean those rows, clean those, let's say, empty rows. I can change data types easily, depends on the locale configuration and things like that. So everything like very simple and easy, straightforward. For a lot of us coming from developer background, this is like very easy to work with. I can format the data as the way that I like it, and I can clean it, make it ready for visualization, which is part of Power BI desktop features. After making your data ready, then you can go and do some visualization with that, which again happens in the same tool, right? So it's not something that you need like a different separate sets of tools, one for getting data, one for visualizing it. Everything happens in one environment, and Power BI Desktop is a free tool, by the way. You can just download it for free, install it, and start playing with that. So here you can see that I have some visualizations. This is like Fitbit activities, by the way. This is not COVID-19 yet, but this is just an example of showing how Power BI works itself. So it shows you like the analysis, like columns, charts, and things like that, which can be analyzed fairly easily. So can we move to next slide, please? After building your Power BI solution, because this is like a developer conference and we are talking about developer audience here, if I'm a application developer, I can go and embed that Power BI report inside my custom application. This can be a web application, ASP.NET, MVC, whatever application I'm using, and I can embed that report, which is fully interactive report, inside my web page. And there are some codes. This page is what we call it Power BI Embedded Playground, which helps us with finding out what codes are needed, how the authentication and authorization process works. But very simple. I mean, embedding a report inside your application is really easy. So building a report, easy. Embedding it is just a few lines of code that you add into your application. Can we go to next slide, please? So with that background of what Power BI is, now Power BI from, let's say, it was like February and early March that we had COVID-19 growth, used in different organizations, different health departments. One of them is Washington State Department of Health, which is the one that you are just seeing right now. So they embedded a Power BI report, getting data from different sources. Washington State was one of the first states that this happened in the United States. So with that, they managed to analyze this data and they managed to see how the process is going. And this website is already live right now with the Power BI report in it. It wasn't only there. If we go to the next slide, we'll see that also in Australia, the Victoria government, the Victoria Department of Health and Human Services also use Power BI for analyzing the data. This is a Power BI report that you can see, which again embedded inside their website. This can be accessed like as a link separately by itself, or it can be accessed through that website. This information updates, so it's not the fact that you need to like get data or refresh data manually yourself. This refresh process happens automatically as part of a scheduled process. Can we go to the next slide, please? And Microsoft then collaborated with USA Facts to get some data and build their own version of COVID-19 reports, which is what you see like a sample of this screenshot in this slide right now. So they managed to get the data from a reliable source and build a sample report for that everyone can use, not only, let's say, specific organizations. And this report, which you can see right now, this is available even for you. You can go and download it. You can go and use it in your website. If you go to the next slide. Here you can see there are ways that you can use that report. Let's say if even I haven't built that report, but I want to, I have a website with some information about COVID-19. I want to embed that report in my website for everyone to come and see. I can just get the embed code from there. There's a link at the end of these slides which you can go and use it. And that would be that report, fully live report, which is updated frequently. I have it in my own website. Or if I am more kind of like a data analyst person, I can download the Power BI desktop for that report. Microsoft provided that as a link. You can download it. You can customize it. You can customize even the way that this is scheduled to refresh, and then use it for your analysis, or even publish it and share it with others. Another way is that I can have it as a template app. Template app is like a packaged Power BI content, which without me writing it, I can go and get that package and schedule it to refresh and do some customization on the service side to use it. So all of these methods are available with the base report already built by Microsoft team. Now, building reports and analysis on COVID-19 was not only limited to some agencies, news, health department, and Microsoft. Also, the community helped a lot in that, which is in the next slide, you'll see that we have some like screenshots of this is just only very few of the many reports, hundreds of reports built by community people like me, like you, who knows about Power BI. They started connecting to the data source. This can be like Johns Hopkins University, which has like the daily updates of cases coming and changing. You can go and get that data from there and build your own reports. And this is what the community builds. There is a data story gallery in the Power BI community website that you can go and see all of these interesting reports. They have really interesting visualizations and built in all different kind of flavors, focused on different regions. Some of them are global. So very interesting, and you learn a lot how Power BI worked in that scenario, and these are all available for free to see. And you can even go and build your own report, which is the next slide if we can go through. Like what you have seen as that small video at the beginning that you have seen, we can get data from somewhere and build your own analysis. You can connect to this GitHub repository, which is for Johns Hopkins University data for COVID-19. You can get data from there and then start analyzing it with Power BI Desktop. It's a free tool, as I said. It's easy to work with that, and there are tons of learning materials about that. You can go and connect to that source, build your own version of the report, and then start analyzing it and see how it works. And you might be the next one who build another data story gallery in the Power BI community. So with that, I think the next slide is the reference, which is this link. If you use this link, you'll get to the place that you see the pre-built Power BI sample by Microsoft, which you can either get the embed code from that or download the PBIX file, or use it as a template app, which would be a really good point to start. And from there, you'll find also a lot of other learning materials about Power BI if you are interested. Back to you, Sajid.
Thank you. And before we move to the next speaker, let's go back and see if we have any questions.
So there's one question around where to find affiliated communities. There have been some answers, but good if you can address it.
Yeah, you can join the Azure Tech communities, and if not, just ping me over the Twitter, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, let's move on to next speaker. All right, so next I have Hamish on board. And Hamish is going to talk us about how Azure Data Services can help companies quickly understand their data more. So over to you, Hamish.
Awesome. Thank you, Sudhir. Next slide, please. Yeah, hi, Hamish again. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I am really interested in Azure data and DevOps. Community is very important to me. I'm actually a director on a community board, professional association, a SQL Server. And core of what I do, I'm basically a technologist who understands business value. I really like to help companies make stuff go. My details are there. You can hit me up on Twitter, as well as read my blog. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a particular client. I deal with a whole range of clients across all industries, from healthcare, banks, insurance, milk suppliers. And I'm going to talk about a particular client that had a problem, and basically how we found an answer. That answer involved using Azure Data Services. And I've got a couple of links for what you can do to learn more. Next slide, please. So we had a problem. We had, if you could click, sorry, they had an old data warehouse. It was on an old version of SQL Server. They also had, click please, a data lake that was more of a data swamp, and was pretty leaky. They didn't have much governance because over time it had grown. They were doing more and more things, and yeah, it was not in a good way. They needed to replace both. But the problem was they had, one, limited infrastructure resources, but also it was going to take a long time to implement things for a whole range of reasons, because the DBA teams were swamped and didn't have time. You know, they were dealing with BAU things as well as things that were breaking. And so we already had a proof of concept that was around getting data into Azure SQL database. And what was occurring was some of the analysts wanted to do analytics and actually make information from quite disparate data within the organization. And so we already had this issue going on where we were trying to look at ways of replacing things. And then COVID-19 hit. And it really came down to that the business really needed to understand how their clients were interacting with their systems. But more importantly, they had call centers, and they needed to get information from those call centers to make sure that the profile of how they were dealing with clients and customers and what those customers' needs and wants were. But they really didn't have much of a way of doing that. Next slide. please. So we came up with an answer. And some of this already existed in one shape or another. And I've used a diagram from Microsoft here, which should look familiar to anyone who's looked up some of Azure data services. The reason why I've used this diagram is because it was literally what we decided to go with in terms of piecing together the technology. And the decision was made to build on what they had been looking at, which was Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which of course has now become Azure SQL Synapse, Azure Synapse Analytics. And so we made a conscious decision to actually use that. And so what I'll do is talk about a few of the components here that we pulled together, because we had on the left hand of the screen, we had a whole heap of data sources, and we wanted to get them into a data lake. And so we built a data lake in Azure, which is built on top of Azure Blob Storage. So one of the key things we had to do was to try and keep it cost effective. And so we had a couple of database developers who were really good with SSIS. And so with a minimal amount of change to, what they knew, we started using Azure Data Factory to actually load and ingest into our storage. And then we stored that in our data warehouse. But part of what we were doing was we needed to make sure that we were doing this right. And so we invested a whole heap of time on designing, because when it came to the provisioning of these resources, my edict is to always use infrastructure as code. It's one of the core tenets of doing anything around DevOps processes is, build everything from source. And so we spent a lot of time looking at the specific data lake we were going to put in, looking at the types of data that we were bringing in, because initially we had relational data and Azure SQL databases, but we also wanted to bring in data from, that was unstructured. And so there was real diversity in our data. Once we'd got it there, we then, like I say, used Azure Data Factory. The developers used this to basically, do part of the ETL or ELT, depending, to bring in the data. We then were also using Azure Databricks. And this was quite exciting because I had not used Azure Databricks before. I had I knew of Databricks, and the really cool thing about Azure Databricks is Microsoft have taken like the best of Databricks and the best of Azure and put it together. And basically, Azure Databricks enabled us to streamline our workflows, and it was really awesome. And it's really great for analytics. But it's also really good for prepping the data for types of projects, like the AI, machine learning, what have you. And in fact, one of the things that precipitated out of this, we didn't actually have Azure machine learning in scope of what we were doing. But the great thing was, because a lot of the items and infrastructure that we were building, we could actually spend time to extend this out. The great thing is that this opened up a whole range of things that we could integrate, and it was native integration with other Azure services. And so we were doing, by prepping the data, ingesting it, cleaning it up, we could get things out to our Power BI our Power BI site for analytics, but also, you know, we got the business coming to us and saying, well, you know, we actually want to bring all this other data in and stuff. And the actual architectural diagram is a lot more complex than this. I've just focused on the Azure Data Services, but we spun up Cosmos DB because we could easily integrate what we were doing in Synapse and other areas of the business and bring it out for people, for the business. Next slide, please. How we got there, everything had to be spun up from code. And the really cool thing is that on docs.microsoft.com, there is a whole heap of examples there. And the only difference between what we did and what we used on docs.microsoft was the fact that we just put in a whole heap more things that we needed to do. Please, this is not the this is not the actual script. This is one tiny little bit. There's two things I have in the script that are really important, is being able to pause the data warehouse as well as being able to resume it. Because for some people, they may say, well, having this data warehouse in Azure is, you know, the cost of it, what have you, and you can scale up what size compute node you want and all those kind of things. But you may find that, you know, on the weekends, you may not need to have your data warehouse going. So you can pause it, which means that you pause the compute side of the data warehouse, because that's separated from the storage. Your storage will still remain there, but you're just pausing that compute node, so that compute part of it, so that you're not getting charged. So yeah, we also fed this into their CI/CD pipeline, which is something that I've been working on. So now we could spin up a test Synapse. That whole diagram before, we could basically create the test version of that through a deployment, automated deployment through Azure DevOps, which was fantastic because as we required things, we could just spin it up. Next slide, please. So I was basically a DevOps person. I am a data platform MVP, but I've realized that platform engineering is really, really important. And so I was basically in charge of making all the things go in Azure. But the great thing was the DBAs were brought in because a part of the proof of concept that kind of got accelerated into a pilot and then into prod meant that some of the things that they had been struggling with their on-premises systems, you know, those old clunky 2008 R2 SQL servers, well, we could migrate the data out of those, spin it up in Azure SQL database. And so they actually started becoming more like data engineers, and in fact, Azure data engineers, because I showed a lot of, you know, how to run things in Azure. Awesome thing. The client wants to run more things and migrate things to Azure. And in fact, I put here the next step is looking at the inbuilt Apache Spark within Synapse, whereas in fact, as of yesterday, they're looking at how they can stream things into Azure. And that's really awesome because, you know, there's a whole heap of like key phrases from their call center. There's a whole heap of things that they can actually stream into the whole solution. So it's going to be really exciting to see where that can go. The thing is, we were able to do that to actually get to start looking forward because of the minimized administration that we have to do in Azure, and the fact that, you know, we built it from the ground up in the cloud, with focusing on design, because again, we didn't have to, we knew that we could commission things and provision things really easily once we had designed them. Next slide, please. And yeah, these are the sessions at Build that I've watched a couple of them. I'm really excited to see what the presenters are going to talk about, and I really encourage you to have a look at these. I really enjoyed the Azure SQL Game Changers for developers. Asad and Anna have talked about some exciting things that are coming along. Next slide, please. And these next 3 slides, basically go and visit docs.com. You know, Microsoft Docs is awesome, and Microsoft Learn, great way to actually upskill. It's helped me a great deal. And of course, certifications. I'm studying for certifications myself, and really looking forward to just learning way more in Azure. It's a great platform. You know, when you look at the different things that Azure encompasses, you know, we've got Azure AI, Azure Data Platform, and Azure Infrastructure. And for me, this is an exciting time to be a technologist. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sadir.
Thank you so much, Hamish. And let's go back. And all right. So as I mentioned earlier, all of you, we have our guest speaker today on the call, and I'm going to put him on live. He's Jeff Holland. He's a principal program manager in Azure Functions team. So welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for taking out time. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself? I know most of people already know you, but it'll be good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me crash this meetup. I'm thrilled to be here. They gave me a choice. They're like, hey, Jeff, you're helping with a few things at Build. Is there any community events you want to join? And I was like, oh, I know the ones I want to be at, and New Zealand was one of the top ones. And we could talk about that in a second. But for those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Jeff Holland. I work at the Azure team here in Redmond. And so focus primarily for me is a lot on the Azure apps and Azure serverless stuff. So day in, day out as Azure Functions, do a lot with Logic apps, but even a bunch of these other technologies that I've seen in these presentations, get the chance to work with some of those teams in helping build that day to day.
Thanks, Jeff, and I'm a big fan of it. So Jeff, any specific reason you choose to join New Zealand dev community today? So
I have been wanting to go to New Zealand for so long. This is the closest I can get for now. You might notice, I know it's not New Zealand, but it's Sydney here. And like, I got to go to like Microsoft Ignite in Sydney and a few other things. And every time I go, I get messages from folks like Wagner and a lot of folks in the community who are like, New Zealand's the happening place, like New Zealand's where it's going on. And I told myself, the next trip I'm going to take, I've got to stop in New Zealand. I'll tell you as well, a large part of my job as a product manager is looking at usage and trends and trying to understand where we're seeing increased adoption. And this happened years ago that I made this realization. But back when I was working on Logic apps, we were looking and we just saw communities in New Zealand and users in New Zealand specifically, and in Australia for that matter, we're just significantly further ahead. And I've actually asked this maybe to a few in the call, which is like, do you have any ideas why that is? But I've just been blown away with the community, the number of partners that are in the area, that I wanted to take the chance and say hello. I really appreciate all the work that's being done here. And I also want to learn from it too, because there's something special going on in New Zealand. And if I can't be there in person, I wanted to participate in it virtually.
Yeah, and we would love to have you here, Jeff, for sure. I'm sure along with me, a lot of people on the call might be interested and curious about to know what does a PM actually does and how the developers work in Microsoft. So appreciate if you can just share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think the developer job's a little bit easier, day in, day out, they're writing a lot of code, writing tests, engaging with users on GitHub. And so it's really just the PM's job to take credit for all of that work and show up on a stage and say, look what I built. No, it's a bit more nuanced. I would say kind of day to day, Even when like I'm doing interviewing or whatever else or helping folks who are joining, I would say a product manager, like 30% of my time or my team's time is spent interacting or engaging with the community or with users in some form. Sometimes that's like, hey, here's a huge customer. Can you get on a call and talk to them a little bit about apps? Sometimes it's responding to emails or Stack Overflow, but trying to get insight into what are the challenges people are facing, what things are working, what isn't working. So then about a 30% of the time then is just doing some thinking and analysis and brainstorming of, okay, here's 200 things that something like Azure Functions could be doing better and arguably should be doing better. But what are the 10 things that would be the most valuable, the most impactful to the most amount of people? And so trying to reason through both for technical constraints or whatever it might be, like what's the best stuff. And then finally, the final third is partnering with those development teams and saying, hey, you know, we have people who want to do X or Y in Azure. I've done some thinking, I've done some user research. This is what we feel like would be acceptable. Let's do a handoff so that they can then continue to build and evolve that story until they eventually are able to ship, hopefully, what is empowering capabilities into the product.
Awesome, pretty awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I know you don't have much time, but the people on the call, if you have any questions for Jeff, feel free to put up in Q&A, and Jeff is agreed to answer some of them depending on his time.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff, for joining.
Yeah,
and
thank
really
you all so much. I'll be hanging around.
To see you in New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Under different circumstances, I will be there. We'll have a wonderful, whatever, barbecue. Enjoy the time. So thanks so much. I'll answer questions in the Q&A section. I'll let you continue on with the rest of your evening, or I guess day.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So let's move on to the my slide, and I think the next is, if you haven't joined the community, I would highly encourage you to go to the website, aka.ms.nzn newsletter, join the community, and on a monthly basis, you will get a newsletter which basically tells you what's happening within Microsoft, because we often get a lot of requests from the people that, hey, what is Microsoft is doing? What events Microsoft is hosting? Where the workshop is happening? What are the cool things that are coming out from Microsoft? Hey, where can I find the developer-related maybe code snippet or reference architecture, right? So this is your chance. This is your way to get all this information on a monthly basis, and we're gonna send you the events, the content which is relevant to the New Zealand. Now, with that, I would like to thank all of our speakers, including our special guest, Jeff Holland, to taking their time from their busy schedules and participating and helping communities. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope we see you continue growing the communities, continuing helping developers. Really appreciate that. And there are a few folks who are working behind the scenes. Annie, Ian, Chubangi, Daniel, Bruna, these guys are joining from different part of the world, Malaysia and then Korea, Singapore, to help us to run this particular show and to make it happen. So thank you so much, all of you, for your time and making this happen for New Zealand dev community. Really appreciate that. And today's presentation, we're gonna put up on this link. If you go to aka.ms, NZ build resources, you will get all these slide decks and all the resources which put up over there. You can get it over there. So with that, thank you so much. Have a nice day ahead and stay safe. Thanks.